Hey everybody, welcome back to the B16 podcast number 2. I'm joined by Mark. It is currently 3 p.m.
Hello. 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
U.S. East Coast.
Exactly, EST boys. Yeah, we apologize for the delay since our previous installment, but I guess things happen. People lie and people think it's 3 p.m., but maybe they're time travelers. Who knows? Okay, anyways, let's just get right into it. So right now, normally we would be having E3 and we've been having a lot of information come out, but I guess we got nothing, so to speak. I guess, Mark, did you
All
hear about?
the I was gonna say all the console events got pushed back. Sony's event got pushed back. So did Xbox. So we're kind of in the dark right now.
Yeah, we're in a dark era, you know. Um, that being said, they did just announce today that we would be getting Persona 4 Golden, which is a world-renowned JRPG game that I have never given the time of day, a PC port.
Me neither. So I'm with you on that. Unified on that front.
Um, we still have that global health crisis going on. That's cool, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's pretty bad.
That's pretty
You
bad.
you said Persona 4?
Persona 4 Golden. Yeah. It's not even the fifth one. I mean, and they're putting it on PC, but they haven't even put it on Switch yet. And typically, since Joker has representation in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as well as on the stage, they represent Persona 4. They represent other Persona games on his Memento stage with like color palette swaps or whatever.
Yeah.
They haven't given. I guess there's like a game on the 3DS that's not actually a Persona game. It's like a Chibi-esque spin-off or whatever. I'm surprised that they haven't ported it to the Switch if they're going to include him in it. You typically, like all the other franchises, you've seen some Nintendo. I don't know. I guess Banjo-Kazooie hasn't been on here. I'm sorry. I'm rambling. Basically, my point is I'm surprised that they would port it to the PC before they port it to the Switch, given their current relations with Nintendo and having that, Brian's favorite game, Atlas, whatever it's called. I don't even remember. Actually, no, it's Platinum Games. My bad.
Wait. First of all, who's Brian?
Oh, I
I
don't know.
don't know that
Sorry.
guy.
I think you might be living in
Yeah,
2:59 p.m. My bad.
yeah,
Um,
maybe. I had a question for you. You
okay.
said stage palette colors. Are you telling me that you can change the look of a stage?
It's, I mean, there's forms of stages in Ultimate. There's
Okay.
three
Okay.
forms. But in terms of palette, it's just really for the Persona stage. It's like I think it might be random, or it might be like if you select a Persona 4 song, then it makes it Persona 4 like yellow themed. Basically,
Oh.
I think it's if you just normally select it, it might be on a random rotation. But yeah, for Mementos is the name of the stage. It can be like blue, which is I think is Persona 3. It can be like yellow themed, which is Persona 4, or red, which is Persona 5. But you can't like manually. I don't think unless it's either that song thing I just said, where like if you select a song from the game, then it will
Yeah.
be that color, or
Yeah.
it's just random. I'm actually not particularly sure, but yeah, I don't know. It's cool. I was playing on it earlier today. It is, it's different than most other stages. Gives it a little bit of flair.
Do you play Smash with Joy Cons or Pro Controller or
Um,
something else?
Prior to Ultimate, I had pretty much dedicatedly used the GameCube controller, which they've supported even till now. But for Ultimate, just because of like portability factors and you know and other reasons, I tried to switch to the Pro controller, which I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite controllers, and I've mainly used it. Every here and there, especially like the few months before coronavirus. So between like Christmas break and coronavirus, I would switch over to the GameCube controller just to try and test it out. But for the whole year, from December 2018 till December 2019, January 2020, I'd been using the Pro controller, and now I'm back on the Pro controller. The latency is the same for some reason, even though the GameCube is a wired connection, I believe.
Hmm.
I think the latency is like about the same, and for me, the GameCube sticks wear down fairly fast, at least in my opinion. I don't know, whatever it could be, but the Pro controller doesn't seem to have any signs of really wearing down, and I don't know. I just like it a lot. It's definitely one of their better controllers, and I think, in my opinion, my favorite controller of all time is still the GameCube controller, just because of its versatility for the platform it was made for, and
Yep.
definitely for
Yep.
Smash Bros. Having used it 10 plus years. But the Wii
No,
U, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. My bad.
no. Go ahead. Wasn't it like a tablet?
Yeah, so they had this thing called the gamepad, which was I didn't realize just how quite bulky it really was until you touched the Switch, and then I didn't even realize how quite bulky the Switch was until I just touched the Switch Lite, which I think is only like a comparison thing. But definitely with the Wii U gamepad, it's like a bulkier, it has like a glossy, so it
Yeah,
can get
I
like,
see a picture here right now. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't, in retrospect, it just doesn't look well. Its battery life is like, if I charge my Wii U gamepad right now, I haven't like thrown my Wii U gamepad around the house. I take fairly good care of my things. The charge lasts maybe an hour, probably like 30 minutes. It's really bad. If you get like a full charge off of it, they've had known battery issues. I mean, they don't support the console anymore, blah blah blah. But I haven't even had it 8 years yet, and its battery life for the gamepad is.
And you can't play wired.
Oh no, I mean, you can just always have the gamepad plugged in while you're using it,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
in a lot of instances, you can just use a Wiimote or something like that, or the Wii U Pro controller, which is pretty good. Not as good as the Switch one, but it's pretty good. But at the same time, you can't access the settings screen on the Wii U without using the gamepad. There are many instances where you need to use the gamepad for some.
That sucks.
Yeah, so if you fuck up your gamepad, you're shit out of luck. They never sold them separately, so if you like broke your gamepad or whatever it may be, and especially now because they don't repair them anymore, like you
Yeah.
have to buy another console. Like it was a shit show. I don't know why they never sold other gamepads. It's kind of stupid, but
I'm looking at the button layout, and that seems very uncomfortable. Can you tell me about this? The
Well, on the
analog
gamepad,
sticks on the top.
yeah, yeah. So I guess that's kind of no. I guess DualShock was on the bottom, right? So it's like the opposite of DualShock. So yeah, they had the two sticks on the top. I guess while you're using it, so to speak, you don't notice it too much. At the time though, that I was playing on the Wii U, I was also playing on the Xbox 360, which is, in my opinion, optimal format. But
Yeah.
so in that way, I noticed the contrast. And then when they made the Switch, they have it in that same Xbox diagonal format, top left, bottom right, for sticks. So in that regard, yeah, the Wii U, yeah, they had a misstep. It's not terrible. Their Pro controller, where it's not like where there's not like a screen between your sticks and like all that, and it might even be top left, bottom right. Let me check actually, but the Pro controller for the Wii U, I know they're both in the top left and the top right. You don't notice it with that, in my opinion. Like I thought the Wii U Pro controller was pretty good, but when you have a giant screen between it and like your hands are outstretched and it's a bulky piece of plastic that has glossy issues, no, definitely you definitely notice it, and the triggers don't feel satisfying.
This looks kind of. This is a little sus looking, Kenny.
Yeah, dude.
Hold on. Oh wait, okay. I think the only weird thing for me would be that the D-pad and the face buttons are like really close to the center.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Are you referring still to the Wii U, or are you referring to the Switch Pro controller?
I'm looking at the Wii U Pro controller.
Yeah. Again, it's not perfect.
Or
Again,
what I think is a official.
it probably is. It's like, although the console was typically black, the Wii Pro controller was typically like a white one. So if you're looking at like, and the only issue that the console has is it doesn't have a hell of a lot of storage. So you could update like a few games, and for me, like, and you just run out of storage. I think the largest, similar to like earlier iPhones, like the largest amount of storage, onboard storage you get with the Wii U was like 32 gigabytes, which
God,
most games nowadays and still at that point are larger than that capacity. Like I think Xenoblade X, which is not the biggest title on the Wii U, but a lot of people who bought one probably bought that as well. I think it's like 100. I don't know exactly, but it's a very large game, and I don't even think you could install it if you had nothing else installed. So yeah, it certainly has a lot of issues, and the Switch doesn't have a lot of onboard storage either. But micro SD cards aren't too terrible, I guess, to get a hold of, and I don't know.
Right. I remember there was a sale for a micro SD card, and Cole was looking at it for his Switch, and he sent it, and I was like, wait a minute, that's 128 gigabytes for $20? So
Yeah.
I got it, and it's in my phone still.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I don't know if they're still on sale, but yeah, I think I've seen similar sales where it's just like micro SD cards aren't that bad to find sales anymore. The larger ones, like they're starting to make terabyte models for them. Those will run you a fair price, and I don't even know if this, like, there's a sense that it could not even be supported by the Switch if it's that large of a capacity. I don't know. I've just heard that talked about, but yeah. There's actually a funny thing about micro SD cards. On eBay, there's a lot of sellers who say it's like a certain Amazon. You won't really find this problem, but on eBay, if you buy it, like a lot of people say, oh, it's like 200 gigabyte micro SD card, right? And a bunch of videos where people actually buy the micro SD card, and I don't know 100% exactly how it works, but the system can actually lie to you. So you can go on your you can buy that micro SD card that says it has a certain amount of storage. You can put it
Yeah,
into your
yeah.
console, and on the console it can still tell you that it has the listed storage. But then if you actually look inside of it, it doesn't. So I thought that's pretty interesting.
Damn.
Yeah,
You can get juked out like that, huh?
yeah. You can. Yeah, if you buy through eBay third party, yeah, you can get juked out. Um, it's pretty crazy.
eBay has been pretty honest with me, but I could see how if you get it from the wrong seller, you'll get cooked.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just thought I'd share that interesting tidbit because I just find it interesting that even the console itself can lie to you about the amount of storage, like that the micro SD card itself can be that deceptive, even if it internally doesn't have the bits to bear. It can still be lying when you're putting it into your machine and not just as like a listing. But yeah. So I saw that
What is
you. Oh, my bad.
no? So I was gonna say, what is the standard storage on the Switch?
Um. Ooh. You caught me. I'm pretty sure it's about 32 gigabytes. Just as I said, that was
Oh,
the.
for the Wii U,
Yeah, but it's not
it's
like.
the same.
Yeah, but the thing is with the Wii U, that was the largest capacity. You could also get like 16 or 12 gigabytes, or 24. I believe the largest model was 32. With the Switch, it's standardized, so all of them have a certain amount of internal storage. And I think they had a revision last summer that increased the amount of internal storage in the base console. Um, but yeah, I guess it's easier to expand and add storage to it. Yeah, but yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and Nintendo does a pretty good job with compressing their first party games, so they don't typically take a
Hmm.
lot of space. Um, but it's still like not the greatest feeling in the world. Yeah.
You know, you just reminded me of compressing their games.
Hmm.
Do you know how big Modern Warfare is at this point?
I
Isn't it
do.
over like 100?
On
Oh my
PC, it's
god!
actually 180 or so. When I installed it,
Holy hell,
I installed it
dude!
about a month ago or so, and yeah, it's
Not Warzone, right? Modern Warfare.
Modern Warfare, yeah, from the
Okay, okay.
Battle.net launcher. I think it might have installed Warzone as well in that large. I'd only clicked on install Modern Warfare, but it didn't prompt me to not install Warzone. So yeah, I think it was about 180 gigabytes, and at launch before Warzone even came out, I think it was like 140, but on PC, but it's just ridiculous. Like I think what it stems from, and on PS4 and Xbox One, you're seeing this a lot, where it's like 100 gigabyte games that don't actually have that much content to make you think they'd be that large. One, it's yeah, lack of compression, and I think it's two. It's like they make every user download the high. I mean, I think some of them. I don't know if it's the Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro. I know that there's like a way that they can prompt you to download them if you have one of the the One X PS4 Pro models. But like, I think generally they have you download the high quality textures even if you can't use them. So
Oh, okay.
you're sitting there with the 4K textures on your machine or whatever that you can't actually use, and those take up just so much more space because there's just so much more information in the same texture, like so, and that's across like if in an isolated thing it might be like a very small amount over it, but like across every like not blade of grass so to speak, but like every shop that you might see on a map like has different
Right.
texture, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it adds up, and yeah,
I,
so
I see. I can see why they did that because the One S can allegedly upscale to 4K.
yeah.
Allegedly, right? So then yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna have to get to a point where like storage is less of an issue. And again, although I'm criticizing them for the amount of internal base storage they give to their consoles, Nintendo
Yeah.
does a good job with compression. And I think people are fearful of compression leading to decrease in quality when it's like decompress, whatever it may be. But I don't know. For me, they don't all, not all of them. I'm not gonna sit here and be like preach that all of their games are the best looking ever. But I don't think Smash Ultimate has that large of a file size compared to like
It's small, right?
yeah, it's fairly small and it doesn't look bad. I can say at least to that game, it does not look bad, and I know it uses their compression methods probably. So like, I think more studios should try and put that in practice, so you're not fighting over like the two games to install on your console in 3 years when 300 gigabytes is like somehow the standard. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I always mark that as the change in console generation. When the
yeah,
games start reaching the console storage limit. Same thing happened with 360, and then the one came out.
yeah, no. I think that this next generation, at least from the PS5 side of things, they aren't really like Xbox One's been marketing like their graphical computing power, which I'm pretty sure is probably going to be pretty kick-ass. How much it's taken advantage of will be remained to see, but I think it actually has the specs to back it up. The PS5 on the other hand, they haven't really been boasting in their advertisements so far, like, oh, we think it's going to be like the strongest machine ever, which we saw for the One X and the PS4 Pro. They were trying to say it was going to be the strongest ever, and now Xbox is still kind of saying that, but they're more focused on their SSD, and
Yes.
the SSD can affect a lot of things. Like, I have one on a laptop, and it does. Like, installing, because one of the things I noticed about the PS4 is its download, like the amount of time it takes to download something. If you have good internet, it's not going to take that long, but the amount of time it takes to write to the hard disk inside of it is like forever, because hard drives can have different read and write, so I guess the one inside the PS4 is just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, downloading and installing games on the PS5 will probably be a breeze, but and loading in textures in certain zones, so it can affect performance in instances when you're trying to load, when you're not trying to like compute something, but when you're trying to actually load in the textures in an area because you're moving
So like
fast.
the loading screen issue.
Yes, exactly. It won't have a lot of high loading screens. I think they even showed like a tech demo of Spider-Man on the PS4 versus Spider-Man on the PS5, and they weren't showing the hardware itself, but they were just showing the loading comparison, and it was like a fraction of a second. But I don't think it's going to amount, at least they haven't shown anything that indicates like, oh, the games are going to look 20 times better. It would just be like maybe they'll load 30 times better, like if that makes sense. But not that the games won't. I think there will be more power on it. Obviously, it's not going to have the same amount of power as the PS4, because, they're not the Wii and the Wii U. The Wii U is actually I looked into this at one time. It's like a very modified Wii to like optimize it, and it's
Really?
very slightly upgraded, but it's like on the same architecture, which is why it's able to emulate the Wii games. So
It's a Wii Pro.
Yeah.
Just,
Pretty much. It's pretty much, yeah. It's a Wii that has HDMI compatibility and is slightly stronger, but it's pretty much still just a Wii. They're able to just, maybe I'm doing it a disservice in a sense, but it is based heavily on the architecture of the Wii. It's not as much of a leap as you might see from what we're seeing right now, which I think because I think Sony will be like PS3 to PS4 is a pretty large leap in my opinion. So I expect, and PS2 to PS3. Like if you look at the PS2 just to the PS4, immense leap, and even for Nintendo, I think too. If you look at the N64 to the Switch. But that's over a longer time period, of course. Like that is a good leap. They're a little lagging behind in like technical things, but their games have been fairly consistent in my opinion.
Yeah.
For me, I'm the kind of person who doesn't really, at least right now, I don't really care for 4K. I think 1080p 60 FPS or 1080p 30 FPS is good enough for me. I'm not a big fan of the dynamic frame rates. Like some of Nintendo's games, like Pokemon, I'm sure you may have heard about this. Like there's this wild area in the game where you can do raids and you can see other players. And the resolution in there can be like 500p, and the frame rate can be unstable. You can see people rubber banding around. It's just, in my opinion, kind of pathetic in that sense. I don't think the machine is incapable of doing better. I think they haven't maybe found their footing because Game Freak hasn't done too many home console things. Like I don't think they optimize it well. I don't think certain things could have done better. So that I don't think Xbox fails to do that for the most part. And I don't think PlayStation fails to do that for the most part. So that's where I think they could do a little bit better. In my opinion. But as we head into the next generation, I don't think we're going to get a Switch sequel for like 6 years. I think we're going to get a Switch Pro for sure.
Switch Pro. What do you think, Switch Pro? I mean, 2021 at the soonest, right?
Yeah, I think May 2021, something like that. I mean, I've looked at the patterns with like all of the Switch Lite and the Switch at least. If you look at those patterns, what do? They launched a Zelda game alongside their console to bolster sales, and it worked really well for them because Zelda is a great way for them to show off what the machine is capable of. The Switch Lite wasn't being sold to advertise its power or whatever like that. It was being sold to really sell people on the portability aspect. So what do? They release a 2D Zelda game that's like, oh, you can play this remastered game that looks really good on the go. And you can also play all the other games on the Switch and blah blah blah. But I think like the selecting a top-down 2D Zelda for that was very like I don't think it was just like a carefree decision. I think they were thinking about it. And for Breath of the Wild being ported to this, and it's actually technically a port because it was going to be it was the Wii U's Zelda game that just came out so late that it became the Switch's as well.
That's the worst.
Yeah,
that is the worst.
I think they did delay it a few times. I think it was confirmed one of the last reasons they delayed it was because they're like, you know what, we're going to release this in the last 2 months of the Wii U. Let's just put it on the Switch. And they reworked a lot of things. Like the Wii U gamepad was going to be a very heavily used feature of the game. It was going to be like, oh, you need to use it to do certain things. But once they realized they were going to put that on the Switch, and the Switch didn't have that, like it didn't have the dual screen thing because the Wii U had 2 screens technically, if you looked at the gamepad and the TV. Then they swapped it over a little bit, and I think the game's all the better for it because you don't want to be staring at the bottom screen when stuff's going on the top screen. But
Question for you, Ken.
yeah.
How do you feel about? Okay, so we've been talking about the Wii U gamepad, right?
Yeah.
Which is, if I had to put a word on it, I don't know if this is the right word, kind of gimmicky, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you could say that.
Yes.
And then the Joy Cons are unorthodox.
I could say
Do
that.
you like that? That kind of like, deviation from the norm of just, regular controllers?
Yeah, and even looking at the Wiimote too, that's not your average controller. So
Yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think it's certainly led to certain successes. I think the N64 controller, which I haven't really used that much. I don't have an N64, so I haven't really used an N64 controller that much for the longest time. Now I've grown a little bit more to like be willing to try it or whatever. It just, if you look it up, I dare you look at it.
I'm looking at it.
It is a tri-prong, like 3-handed. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. They went from having.
I see an image with 2 hands on it.
Yeah. So you can hold it in 3 positions or whatever. It's weird. They definitely made a lot of use out of that or whatever, or so I hear. But if you just look at the NES, it's basically the most basic controller you're going to see. It's like a D-pad and 2 buttons. I don't even think it has shoulder buttons. Then the SNES, they introduced the shoulder buttons. And they have 4 buttons now or whatever. That evolution was a very this is what you need to play. You don't need it didn't have any bells and whistles, I guess. It was just like, this is what you need to play. It's very simple.
Right.
Then you look at the jump to 3D, I guess, and N64, and then you get a little weird, I guess. I think that's only natural. They were figuring out like 3D games at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to the GameCube, and compared to the Xbox, I guess, and PlayStation, who matched stick size, the C stick is smaller than the left thumbstick on the GameCube controller, which I enjoy. Blah blah blah.
It is.
I guess that's where they really start deviating from Sony and Microsoft is there, but it's still similar enough where it's like, hey, you can see that you would hold it in the same way.
No, yeah, that's.
The button placement is awkward, I guess, compared to the PlayStation, whatever. If you look at it like that, I mean, it works. It lends itself well to a lot of Nintendo's games because the A button is your primary button, so it's larger. B button is like a sub action, anyways. But then you go past that. Then you go to the Wiimote. Yeah, I don't.
Yes. Wii Sports, shout out.
Yes, so asking me if I enjoy the gimmicky aspects, I think it lets them try things that can either work. Like, the Wii is one of the biggest video game successes of all time, and that doesn't look like an Xbox 360 controller for sure. But it also lends itself to the Wii U gamepad, I guess, which Wii U is renowned for being one of the biggest failures. Again, I don't think it's quite as terrible as people deem it to be. I think, like we were talking about before, it's kind of a Wii Pros, and people had just been living with their Wii and continue to live with their Wii instead of a Wii U. So I think maybe in that is more where their failure stems from. It definitely has a good library, which you're seeing because most of those games are getting ported to the Switch and doing really well on the Switch. And that frustrates me because I played all of them on the Wii U for the most part, so now I'm just waiting for them to make new titles and they keep porting the same. But, it at least tells that their library on the Wii U wasn't terrible. But yeah, no.
You just made me realize Bloodstained, that Castlevania game, was supposed to be made for
the Wii
U, and that's why the Switch release has been so rough for them because they've been porting it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the worst feeling when I go to a game subreddit that I'm a part of, Bloodstained or Indivisible, and it's just every day it's is the Switch version fixed yet? It's so sad because I don't know. I think people have problems porting to Switch if they're primarily designing for
a previous
pretty much anything else. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyways, I just want to finish up my little comments on the gimmicks real fast. I think overall, I don't think I would like them nearly as much if they didn't try to do it. I think sometimes I question it, probably less so than most people, but I know people will point to third party maybe things that not many people know about. I guess the NVIDIA Shield or whatever to be they tried to do it first, whatever. But for me at least, if I look at the Wii U gamepad, which did come out before the Nvidia Shield, you can see their trajectory, and they even talked about it in their original Nintendo Switch presentation. The gamepad to the Switch felt like the best evolution there was. There wasn't any like separation now between the console and the gamepad. For the Wii U, you can only be in a certain amount of meters of the console before you lose a Bluetooth connection and you can't play because it's getting a Bluetooth signal with all the video and audio from the console. It doesn't have the hardware inside of it to process the game. The Switch is gimmicky, so to speak, too. The Joy-Cons are certainly gimmicky. They have issues. There's Joy-Con drift. We could go on about that for like 2 hours, but I don't want to.
No, that's very bad. I don't want to talk about Xbox stick drift.
Yeah. So, but do I like it? Yeah, I definitely like it. I don't think it's either the GameCube or the Switch are my favorite console of all time. Probably the Switch now because it just has probably my favorite iterations of most of their first-party games. Maybe the GameCube is a little bit, but they're very not connect for me. But yeah, no. Again, I do like them for their gimmicks. I think they make a lot of mistakes. They've been a lot better. They didn't used to allow so many things that they've been slowly addressing. Like you had region lock, you had all these things that it takes them a while. I'm not gonna lie, it takes them a while, but they're getting there. They're getting there. I say in the next 10 years, most of my complaints, I think we'll be at a
10 years.
10 years. 10 years. I think by 10 years, we'll have 1080p 60 FPS as their baseline, and we won't be dipping into dynamic resolution anymore. I think that they'll get over this voice chat lump that it's so convoluted, and at least they're trying to do it. They didn't do it on the Wii U for the most part.
Is there no voice chat on Switch?
There is, but you have to use your phone. And you can only really do it, except for like Overwatch and Fortnite, with people who you're already friends with. So, for example, for Splatoon, it would be really useful if you could do callouts, right? And to your team.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily somebody you know, but if you're in a ranked match, because ranked is like a solo queue. There's also like a duo and quads, but that doesn't affect like your rank. It's like a temporary rank that you build up over 2 hours with the person while a certain mode's in rotation. But you're solo rank, so you can only, that's rank mode. You can't talk to the other people. You have two.
That sucks.
Yeah, you have two pinging options. You can say booyah and you can say woo me or what. I haven't even remember what it is. Or come on. I think it's come on, but it's either come on or booyah. And then there's both of them. It's like up on the D-pad, down on the D-pad.
So you're telling me for me to queue into ranked, a highly competitive game mode,
Yes.
I'm only allowed to go solo and play with randoms, and I can't even talk to them.
Yes, pretty much.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That is insane.
I don't think the Switch is so weak as to say that it could not support native voice chat. I certainly think it could. They built all their controllers with no headphone jack, so I think like they kind of screwed themselves in the foot in that sense. Although there is a little, and this isn't on the Joy-Con, so I don't know how they would handle that, but they did build a little like charging nub onto the Pro controllers for USB-C. So I think you could have them release like a USB-C splitter for all the people who bought them before a certain point, so that you could like split it into being able to charge or just being able to plug in audio. I think that is possible. I think they do that with smartphones or whatever because iPhone doesn't have an audio jack anymore, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I again, so I think I know 10 years sounds like a long time, but, it's hopefully I'll still be around then. I think
It'll go by quick.
Yeah. They've been I think they'll address all the things that I might say, hey, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And then by that point, like, I won't care. Like, if they're not hitting 4K, I'm not going to care. At least I can say that now. 1080p for me is, like, I've seen 4K displays. I've seen blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, I like, for movies, I guess, I enjoy 4K. But, like, for gaming, like, I'm not trying to necessarily, I'm trying to, like, make plays off of each frame. But I'm not trying to soak in the beauty to the extent that I might be, like, a film. Because I'm playing an active role in what's going on the screen.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. For me, like it's like so 480p to 720p, large visual difference, large like clarity, like you see in 64 games. 720p to 1080, a little less clear, but you can still see it. You can still really see it. 1080p to 4K for me, like maybe I'm blind, maybe I'm whatever, but it's not nearly as evident in my experience. Like it's not nearly as evident. I think it's gonna be a while, like before we really get to like the next stage where it's like, oh, you can just see it. Like in the last 20 years, we've gone from like polygons we've gone from pixels on a screen to polygons to photorealistic people in mocap. I think we're gonna hit a lull for a while. That's what I'm trying to say. So I don't mind 1080. I think 1080p 60 FPS is like optimal.
And most people haven't caught up yet. I mean, like, I got lucky. I got a 4K TV out of the blue, dropped from the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't have an Xbox One X, so I can't even do real 4K.
Yeah.
And most people do not have 4K TV, right? So, or 4K monitor
Yeah.
for that matter. So, honestly, frame rate, I'd be more happy with better frame rates than, my gosh, 4K,
I agree.
right?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Yeah, no, I think they should be. If they can hit 1080p, then they should just start bolstering up that frame rate. I think there's a lot of games you see on console. I'm not trying to attack consoles right now, but there's a lot of games you see on consoles that have.
Nah, Kenny, do it. Do it.
I think there's a lot of games that have like sub 30 frame rates. And as
Yes.
somebody who played
Oh
on
my
somebody who
gosh.
played on Overwatch on a laptop for years, that was at sub 30 FPS, I still did pretty well. But who played on that conditions, I don't think that's any. Uh,
Yep.
I don't think it's a fair way to play. I don't think that's an enjoyable way to play, and I don't
Yep.
think that's a marketable way to play. So I don't know. I think you have ports of like just to throw one more little Nintendo thing under the bus, even though I'm a shill for them. The Witcher 3 port.
Looking at you, Control.
Yeah.
Control
The
run
control
for
suffer.
anything standard. In some areas, it's like watching a slideshow.
Jesus. Yeah. I know for my friend. I know this isn't a well-regarded game here, but for my friend, he plays Fortnite on his base Xbox One, and he doesn't.
Fort, baby.
Yeah, he can't even load the textures in most of the time. He can't do like runs. And I know like it's a newer game than the hardware it's based off of, but the Xbox
Wait, are
One
you for
isn't supposed to
real?
be that weak.
Are you for real? Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
Isn't Fortnite one of like the least demanding games visually, like on the market?
I mean, it depends on the settings you're using, I suppose. But yeah, no, it's one of the best. I would put it like this, like you're saying. Like, it's decently well optimized because the amount of support Epic gives it. Like it's pretty well
Yeah,
optimized. Like there are games that like shouldn't really be demanding because you can tell visually or you can tell like this really shouldn't be that demanding, but the developer isn't optimizing as much as they can, so it will be anyways. It will tax your resources when it doesn't really need to. Blah blah blah. But and I think Fortnite does a decent job of it. It's still somewhat demanding. Like I know it's whatever, but like, anyways, what I was saying was like, yeah, like it really, like you were saying, like it really shouldn't be like suffering on the texture end. Like I guess they could turn down the settings. I don't know. The Xbox One S is basically supposed to have the same internals as the base Xbox One. It's just supposed to have the power brick inside of it, so it looks better. It looks cleaner, slightly more powerful.
Power brick inside my console. Let's find out. Where's the power brick?
Yeah.
There is no power brick.
Yeah, what I mean by that is like for the base Xbox One, you have to like plug. Oh yeah, yeah.
I still have my 360 set up. I've got that huge freaking black box I gotta carry around. Too.
Exactly. So that's inside of it, so to speak. And the only thing that you plug in is a little cable from that at the end of that. That's inside of your case, so to speak, to the wall, which is a lot better. It's a lot smaller, and I do think
look, man. First of all, it's white. It looks better, and it's skinnier. Okay, the original Xbox is fat and ugly. I said it here. Okay,
I think it is glossy too. Like I think in the same way that Wii U gamepad
is it?
Like at least I think the base Xbox One controllers were at least like in that same way that I was talking about the gamepad being that like the glossy on. Yeah, I think the base Xbox One controllers, because I play on them, I think they also have that texture. They fixed that, and I appreciate them for that. But yeah. Anyway, so I think the Xbox One S, like you were saying before, it can support like 4K video when you're like watching a movie or whatever. I think I remember.
Allegedly.
But for the most part, it's just supposed to be a revision, so it's supposed to have the same like hardware. But I have a feeling, I don't know, I have a feeling that it probably wouldn't have the same texture issues that the base Xbox One is having. But I don't know for sure. Anyways, yeah, I hope that just gets fixed. I think there's just a lot of instances where like games just aren't as optimized as they could be, so they don't run that well. And I think instead of pushing for bragging about a certain thing like a loading time or whatever it may be, I think the loading time thing is good, but I think instead of selectively focusing on one aspect and saying, hey, we're gonna make this great and we're not gonna really talk about the other things because we didn't really touch them too much. If it's like not as far as the loading times, but everything else collectively is boosted, I think everybody will feel a lot better. And I do think frame rate is more important than resolution once you hit a certain resolution.
Yes, sir.
Like I don't think 500p is acceptable with the dynamic resolution BS that I've seen, but if you're at like, I don't even want to say this, if you're at like 720p or if you're even at like 900 or 1080p and you're not dipping, like I don't want to see them say, oh yeah, we're at 900p or we're at 1080p. Like they do a lot and then it's like, but it's dynamic, so you don't actually get 1080p most of the time. then don't focus on 144 hertz. Don't focus on. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean that. Then don't focus on 4K. But like, focus on like, hey, maybe we can get a solid 30 FPS so people aren't playing a slideshow. Maybe we can hit 60. Like, again, I've been preaching this for a while now. 1080p 60 FPS, mwah, easy. But like, yeah, people shouldn't be playing like, hey, this game is 4K and we use the Ultra HD textures and it's the latest RPG from this well-renowned studio. But then you play it on your console, which most people play those types of games on, and it's like 8 FPS.
Question. Would you prefer 1080p 30 FPS or 720p 60 FPS?
Depends on what I'm playing. If I was playing something like a fighter or a shooter, then I would prefer 60 FPS. But if I was playing like a narrative-based game, like The Last of Us or Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I played, or something like that, or Tomb Raider, then I would prefer 1080p 30 FPS because not that the gameplay takes a backseat, because the gameplay in the things I listed are generally considered good, but that you're not trying to respond to another person fighting you, and it's not as like frame perfect as a fighting game or a shooter. That's why. I think I'm taking the assumption that it's not going to dip to like 15 FPS when I say it's 30 FPS. It's going to be 30 FPS because I've played games that are 30 FPS and I can tell the difference. But like also, if I'm playing it the entire time, I can't tell the difference. So I'm okay with that.
Right.
Like if you put 30 FPS and 60 FPS next to me, yeah, I got you. And if I'm playing Smash Bros at 30 FPS, oh yeah, I'll notice. Like a fighting game or a shooter, I'll notice. But if I'm playing a narrative game, I'm going to take the 1080p and I'm going to take the 30. I hope that answers your question somewhat satisfactorily. But
Oh yeah, was the new Assassin's Creed 1080 30?
I don't know, and it would have to depend, I suppose. Typically, a good place to look is Digital Foundry. They always do like analysis of releases. But what was the latest Assassin's Creed? Was it Origins? Have they been taking break or?
No, I'm talking about the new one, Valhalla.
Valhalla? I don't know. It hasn't come out yet, so unless.
No, I feel like I heard some announcement. I remember people being angry.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what it was specifically. I think they were bragging about it in some way. I think there was some tweet that was saying that it was going to be at a certain, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, here we go. IGN, Valhalla will run at a minimum of 30 FPS.
At a minimum. I mean, well, I guess I don't say the resolution.
Xbox Series X, are you serious?
Damn, that's supposed to be the killer too.
Whoa. Who makes Assassin's Creed team?
Ubisoft. Ubisoft.
Which Ubisoft?
I don't know. I think they might alternate between, similar to how Call of Duty is handled, but I know they pulled like even beyond that. I know they didn't just use Ubisoft this time. They used like a bunch of different studios to do different things. Like, hey, you're this studio, make this segment of the game. But I don't know. Is it usually Ubisoft Montreal? I don't even know.
Okay, it's Montreal. That's good because Montreal is the better one, or one of the better ones. Ubisoft Paris, disgusting. They made Breakpoint absolutely horrendous. Oh my god. Don't look, if it's made by Ubisoft Paris, don't buy it.
Okay.
I say that as someone who's bought Breakpoint and Wildlands. Just listen to what I'm saying. Okay,
Seems they're responsible for Just Dance, though. I mean, you can't go wrong with Just.
All right, that's like the only good thing to come out of.
I want to check this. I still haven't really played the game, but I do want to check this real fast because this might be Ubisoft Paris as well, and then I would have to defend them on this end because I've heard. Oh no, Ubisoft Milan. Never mind. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Ubisoft Milan.
I guess so because they made Mario Rabbids.
How many like sectors are there?
I don't know, probably like 100. No, I actually don't know. I probably like 8. I imagine there wouldn't be more than 8. I don't think. I mean,
there's a Ubisoft Romania, Ubisoft Annecy, Montpellier.
Okay, this is sounding like a lot. This is sounding like.
Yeah, it looks like a lot. What?
Do they handle a lot of licensed properties? Is that why they open so many studios?
I don't know.
I guess they have Tom. You said they have Tom Clancy.
Unfortunately, yes.
That's licensed because he's an author. I don't know anything else they have.
Don't they? No, I think Montreal does Rainbow Six, right?
Is it? I thought that was isn't Rainbow Six Valve, or am I wrong? Rainbow Six. No, it isn't. It is Ubisoft. It's Ubisoft Montreal. I just looked it up, and Sparrowsoft Studio.
See another good game. And let's look at the Division.
Didn't they make Division 2? Did that come out or is
The Division 2 is out. I didn't follow it. I own the game because I got it for like $2.30 on sale.
nice?
Uh, I think the base game wasn't received well, but then they had like a DLC that you had to pay for, which is like apparently half decent. But I mean, a little too late now.
Yeah, did they? What else did they make? There's something else they made. They do Rayman, obviously. They do that. There's something. Sorry, I think something just slipped my mind. I don't know if it was. Yeah, no, I think it just slipped my mind. But oh yeah, Watch Dogs. Did they do Watch Dogs too? Is that them?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, I never played one of them, but I remember like, oh, people were so excited for that.
I did watch gameplay of it. I never.
like
Ubisoft Toronto. There's a Ubisoft Toronto. I just found that.
check that.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Hold on. Watch Dogs Legion. That's not what I'm looking at. Hold on. Just Watch Dogs 2. Let's look that up. Oh, was it Ubisoft Montreal? Okay.
Like most things, I didn't ever play Watch Dogs, but I did play like the Roblox version. It's just like you just walk around and just hacked a bunch of things.
Hey man, Roblox is a medium unmatched. All right.
Have you ever played Phantom Forces? I feel like it's something you might enjoy.
That sounds familiar, but I don't think I have.
It's basically their COD clone, but obviously it's just multiplayer. So I spent more hours than I am proud to admit on that game. Not recently, but also more recently.
Okay
And again, I would like to admit.
It's okay to say be proud.
Yeah.
The only time I opened Roblox, I installed it, I loaded up a map with a pickup truck, and I drove around. It was a small town. I had guns, and that was my full experience with Roblox. 10 out of 10, honestly. I mean, I don't know of any other game that allows me to drive in like a suburban through like a Midwest town and shoot everybody's door down. You know.
Yeah. I recently got an email that somebody was trying to access my Roblox account from like Rio, and I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know why. I really don't know. Like I don't.
What's you got a lot of Robux? Or what's the currency?
Yeah, it is Robux. I do have a 1.4K Robux, but
Oh Jesus, man!
that's also not that much. It was like I had this thing. There was like their membership program. It's called Builders Club, and like middle school I had it, and like you just get it by logging in like every day or whatever. You get like a certain amount. They had tiers of their membership. That's how deep they were. I just never spent it because it was like, yeah, I might want to use this one day, and then yeah, never use it.
Well,
that's how it is. They actually pay their developers though, which I think is pretty cool. Like there are people who make like really, I don't want to criticize the word. I will say somewhat simplistic like games that kids latch onto, and then they made like loads of money. Like they have this GTA clone, which is it's so far removed from GTA that like I hesitate to call it a clone, but it's obviously like what it's supposed to be like, and it has made the people that are in charge of that so much money.
The thing about GTA is a lot of people really do like Grand Theft Auto, but not for like the story or anything like that or the online, but just because it's one of the few, if like the only modern day open world type games available. Like you look at GTA 5, you have Los Angeles,
Yeah.
a full map, a real city filled with NPCs. There's
Mods.
Yeah, and then mods, you mod it up. People buy GTA for the mods.
Yeah.
As well as the story and everything, right? But like
most of the mods.
I think that's the value of GTA, really. And I'm excited for GTA 6 whenever that comes out, just because I know the mod scene is going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, no. The amount of like fan animations that I've seen using Liberty City and mods in GTA 4 or whatever, it's just really funny. Yeah, so, but yeah, I agree.
GTA 4 remastered.
I think more people like are obsessed with the idea of what it could be than what it actually is in and of
Right.
itself. Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
saying, like it represents an open world, city that you can just go around and do whatever you want in. Um, and I think a lot of people just like that because you can't do
There's
it
just
in real
so
life.
much you can do. You can do a zombie survival. You can be a firefighter, police officer, but because the foundation is there, right? You've got the buildings done already.
Yeah,
The modder just has to write some like write the script for the call out or whatever, and they'll get it done. You
exactly,
don't have to build a whole city from scratch, which is
exactly.
what a lot of games try to do and fail. But shout out to Rockstar.
Shout out. Um, I don't know if they're still gonna announce it. I was looking forward to see what Rocksteady was up to because they're in charge of like the Batman, or they were in charge of the Batman Arkham games, and they haven't
Mhm.
really announced what they're doing in like 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, I think Arkham Knight came out in
Damn,
2015, so they've been
I think it did. Yeah.
more or less
Wait,
dead
look.
silent. And after I played Spider-Man, I definitely not enjoyed it less, I guess, but I guess maybe just enjoyed Spider-Man more because the only my main complaint with the Arkham series has been like the combat. It's not.
2015. You're right.
Yeah, so 5 years, half a decade. The combat was like you have to jump on top of every guy pretty much to completely knock them out. Otherwise, they'll keep getting back up more or less. So that's kind of annoying. But in Spider-Man, there's more dynamic ways to just finish enemies off by webbing them, whatever it may be. Um, and it was more fast-paced. And when you play Batman after playing Spider-Man, it feels a lot more slow, clunky punches. Even though he like flips around from like 20 feet from people. Like, I'm not trying to like bash on it too much. I'm just saying I do think Spider-Man handles the combat a little bit better. Other than that, I've always enjoyed those games a lot. And again, one of the first games I had for the Wii U was Arkham City, and it's one of my favorite games. I think just the story is just really good, and combat isn't. But
I watched an Arkham Knight playthrough, the full base game, and then the Batgirl DLC. And it was on sale recently. I should have got it. I'm just remembering how good that playthrough was now that you've reminded me.
yeah,
Next time it goes on sale, I think I'm gonna pick it up.
yeah, they can end up being. I think every once in a while you'll see them. All three of the games will be on sale for like less than $10 or something. At least I saw that on Steam fairly recently. I mean, they were all free on the Epic Game Store, and I got them there, and I have them on the PlayStation. The only one actually, I guess I own all of them because of Epic Games. The only one I hadn't owned on a console, I guess, was the first one, which is Arkham Asylum, which isn't open world per se, but it's still really well considered. I think probably my favorite is either Arkham City or Arkham Knight. I think and I definitely think there's somewhat reason to think so. People really didn't like the Batmobile's total implementation. I guess they always wanted it, and I guess then they got it, and they were less than enthused about it
In
overall.
Arkham,
Yeah, and Arkham Knight, but because that's the only one it's in. But I definitely enjoyed it. I
it's
got
like limited use, right?
yeah, but I guess there's certain puzzle segments where like you have to use the Batmobile, and for some people they just didn't enjoy that. I actually did enjoy it a lot because it's Batman. You always see him like during a cutscene calling in the Batwing, which is like the his plane thing, or getting in the Batmobile at the beginning of the games. But then you never see him actually use it in so many situations that would have been helpful. So it was nice to see like it be included. And it was also, for the time, it was also like a really cool thing to even be capable of processing that inside of a game. I think it was one of like the cooler aspects of this outgoing generation. It was like, wow, you can render this entire city with all these NPCs and all this stuff. I guess in GTA does this too in a sense, and also have the Batmobile as like a thing that you can call to you anywhere and like just hop in. I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling too much, but my point is for the time, it was impressive. It was impressive. That was my point. Like that's why they didn't have it in the games earlier. They actually said it was because they couldn't actually process it. But kudos to them for that. I think that whole series is great, and I can't wait to see what they've been working on for 5 years.
Even better if it's for next gen.
Yeah, true. There's been rumblings it's like a Superman game, or one of there's two studios, but maybe one of them is making another Batman game or whatever. But and the other one's making like a Justice League. I don't really know, but I'm eager to see. Anyways, that about wraps up my ramblings. If you'd like to offer any closing thoughts or things we could just discuss, because we're at the 50-minute mark.
Wow, time flew by. It feels like it's 3:01 already. Well, what did we cover today? We covered the
Lots of
Nintendo
Nintendo Wii.
controllers. Yeah, a lot of Nintendo PS4 games, right?
Yeah, we covered the PS4. We covered gimmicks. We've covered moving towards the next gen. I've rambled a lot. I'm trying my best not
Oh, you
to.
did great. You did great, man. I don't want to say we filled the air because that would make it seem like we just got by. That was good.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to wrap up episode 2 of the B16 podcast.
All right. Farewell, everybody. See you next time at 3 p.m.